All right, I've been wanting to do a video on characteristics of the best investors. If I look across the investors that I've looked up to the most over the course of my investing career, what are the traits that they all have in common? And I think there's five central traits, and in this video I'm gonna go through the five and kind of make some comments on each one of them, just sort of to explain aspects of each trait and sort of how I think about them. So first, let's just go through the five traits. Number one is intellectual curiosity. Number two is humility, and I mean this in a broad sense. I'll get into what I mean in a minute. Number three, you have to be a big reader. Number four, you have to have non-attachment, and I'll get into that. And then number five, you have to be a falsifier. Okay, so let's go through some comments on each of these traits. So first of all, with intellectual curiosity, this is a domain, or this is a sort of a trait that can be kind of a trap, because nobody, if you think about it, nobody goes around thinking that they're uncurious or tells other people, yeah, I'm not curious. We all think we're intellectually curious, right? What I want you to do is just be constantly expanding your intellectual curiosity and go into domains way far afield of the domains you normally would think about. And, you know, some of the best investment ideas or paradigm shifts can come from other domains once you kind of translate them back into domains you know better. Just some different examples. For example, I've been reading about biology and genetics in the past year or two, and it's kind of gotten me to think differently about the ecology of a stock market and survivability of different types of entities, and I never really thought about it that way. And then also another trap is to stay in the academic realm, like in other words, just be reading books. I don't mean that. I mean intellectual curiosity in actual domains where you practice things. So you want to be taking up new sports. You want to be taking up new pastimes, new practices like, maybe bicycle repair or plumbing or something like this. There's things to learn in the domain that can get you to shift how you think about things. And then kind of a master intellectual domain is language learning, because it's the key to unlocking a lot of curiosity about culture, about travel. It makes travel much more satisfying. It can open you to investment ideas and paradigm shifting thoughts in other cultures. Obviously, language itself is a manifestation of how people think and vice versa. And so you start learning another language, it gets you thinking in a different way. And so I kind of think of language learning and sort of cultural learning as sort of a master type of intellectual curiosity. So when I think of intellectual curiosity, I try to think about it across practices, across languages, and across obviously book learning. So think of it in the broadest sense. Okay, number two, humility. Couple words on that, because I mean humility in kind of a broad sense. We've done other videos on epistemic humility, which is not having overconfidence in the nature of what you know. That's what epistemic humility means. But also, I mean humility in kind of a social sense or a sociocultural sense. And there's a great story about the company Herbalife, ticker HLF. There is a very public investor, Bill Ackman, who was short this stock, and he went public with his reasons. And it seemed like kind of a convincing argument. But there was another investor named John Hempton. He's less well known. He's a hedge fund manager from Australia. This guy actually had a type of humility where he was willing to actually go into the realm, the world of people that were users of the products. He wasn't like some, well-dressed egghead looking at financial statements. He actually went into Latin American neighborhoods in major cities in the United States. He didn't speak Spanish, so we brought a translator with him, but he actually talked to users of the product and learned what this thing was all about, how it was sort of a club. It was sort of a service almost to help people sort of have a kind of a group effort at trying to get more fit and more healthy. It taught Hempton a different perspective on this stock. It shifted his paradigm, and it made him go long. It made him take the opposite side of Ackman's position. And it turned out Hempton was right, Ackman was wrong. So Ackman kind of had, you could argue, more of an intellectually arrogant perspective on this stock, whereas Hempton was more approached it from a position of humility, and it worked out in this case. So this is what I mean by humility, not just epistemic humility, but also kind of social and socio-cultural humility as well. Okay, being a big reader. There's a joke about Charlie Munger that he's basically a pair of legs sticking out from behind a big pile of books, right? And with reading, I have some bad news, because if you're not much of a reader, if you're the kind of person who just doesn't like to read very much, probably investing is not a domain for you, because you have to be a big reader and you have to be as eclectic as possible. So you want to read history from domains, all kinds of domains. You want to read biographies of people that you never would have thought of reading biographies from. You want to read obviously financial information about the companies that you're following and the investments you make. You want to be also reading all kinds of different types of fiction, books from different countries and different cultures, as wide a reader as you possibly can be and as eclectic a reader as you can be. And if you're not a reader, I got bad news for you. This domain probably isn't for you, okay? And then number 4, non-attachment. Again, there's some nuance here too, because I mean non-attachment in the Zen sense, meaning non-attachment to outcome. You want to be embracing investments and the investing domain as sort of a mechanism to get better, kind of to learn, to grow. And you don't want to necessarily attach to a certain outcome. Likewise, you don't want to attach to a given set of opinions about an investment, right? You always want to be looking for disconfirmatory evidence for a given opinion for a stock or for an idea. And we'll get into more when I talk about falsifying. So I mean non-attachment to outcomes, to a result, to a net worth goal. I think it's important to set net worth goals, but you want to be sort of do the Zen thing of having the goal but not having attachment to reaching it. Maybe you're okay with reaching it on a time frame that's not yours, or no one asks a stock to go up on a certain day or to reach a certain stock price at a certain time horizon, right? You have to sort of let the stock do its thing and you do your best in response to it. So you want to sort of remain stoical, non-attached, emotionally continent when it comes to the results of investing, because this domain is a very humbling domain. It makes us very embarrassed sometimes at how wrong we can be. And so I want to encourage a cultivation of non-attachment to outcome in sort of the broadest sense. Okay, and then finally, falsifying. You want to be a falsifier. And what do I mean by that? I mean that in the sense of Karl Popper, the philosopher of science. You want to be the opposite of someone who has confirmation bias. You want to be holding a hypothesis, but without attachment to that hypothesis, and you want to be always scanning for disconfirming evidence, for things that will falsify this hypothesis. So let's say you have a view on a stock. You're positive on the banking sector and for reasons X, Y, and Z. Well, you want to keep your eyes open always and be ultimately seeking information to disprove these views, these reasons and these thoughts, to kind of make your thesis more robust, to make sure that you're being intellectually honest. You never want to be blind to disconfirming evidence. And obviously in the world of ideology, it's a world rife with sort of confirmation bias. But in investing, we're talking about your capital and your family's wealth, right? So you want to make sure you don't have this sort of cognitive sin when you're looking at investments. You want to be open to all disconfirming evidence, and you want to be looking to falsify any hypothesis that you have. So these are the 5 traits. There's more, I'm sure, but these are ones that I've found have been characteristic of all the investors that I've looked up to over the course of my career. And if you seek these traits, if you kind of cultivate these traits in you, maybe it'll work out for you and make you a good investor as well. So I hope these videos help. And sorry this video was a little longer than some of my others, but like I said, thanks for watching and thanks for your attention.